Hotep once again, and welcome to another edition of Community Cop. My name is Noel Leader, one of the co-founder members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. I'm here today with my two co-hosts. First of all, Julian Harper.
Welcome.
Second of all, Michael Graves, a.k.a. Big Mike.
Namaste.
And unfortunately, Father Lucas won't be with us today, but hopefully he'll be joining us next Tuesday as he's on Community Cop assignment. But we'd like to welcome you once again, our viewing audience, and let's get right to our discussions. Hopefully we touch on some very significant topics from a perspective of members of our community, as we all are representatives, and hopefully we can hear from you if there's anything that we've missed of significance, any of the hot stories that occurred since we were last here last Tuesday. But right off the bat, as is customary, we like to reflect on two magazines that have an anniversary coming up that were created in 1945 of this month, Jet Magazine and Ebony Magazine. Many of us remember these magazines and the significant role that they played in dealing with issues of African American perspectives. Their objective was to show African American personalities, interests in a positive and self-affirming manner. And they did an excellent job since their inception. Michael, we'll start with you. Jet and Ebony Magazine. One of the things I remember when I was growing up was the centerfolds. Was one of my favorite because they always had some very fine sisters in centerfold. But they always, as I stated in my opening, they always portrayed our community in a positive and self-affirming manner, which we weren't getting and we still continue to do not get from white magazines and white media outlets.
Well, certainly it has a great history, and just speaking of centerfolds, it did something that was extraordinary for its day. It showed dark-skinned sisters that were very beautiful, as opposed to, the ultra light-skinned sisters who were always shown on the TV camera, and the dark ones was always the mammies, big, heavy, sweating, with, a nap on their, a scarf around their head, that type. So it did show beautiful black women of every complexion. But I think that, the seminal thing that it did was it was great relative to communication. It went across the country, and John Johnson started it literally with money that he borrowed from his family. And it was critical. And the thing that I'll never forget, they've done a few times, they've showed it over, was they, on the front page, they had the picture of Emmett Till, how Emmett Till looked after they extracted him from the Tallahatchie River, where white supremacists had killed him in Money, Mississippi. And his mother, Mamie Till, had the courage, the great courage, to show the world what they did to her son, where everybody around her told her to keep that casket covered up, and she said, no, I want the world to see what they did. And so that picture will be forever etched in my mind of Emmett Till. So and it was, and for most of us, that's the beginning of the modern civil rights movement. So that picture is profound. And
Julian, I very frequently, and we all here, make the distinction between white media outlets and black media outlets, and I think it's very important. A lot of time, members of our community, when they read a newspaper, when they read a magazine, or when they look at television, if they don't make a footnote in their mind that this is a white magazine, this is a white station, this is a white media outlet, because everyone has a perspective. Everyone gives information or presents information according to their own perspective. And one of the significant reasons why Jet and Ebony was so prominent in our community and so very important, because the white media outlets and white magazines didn't portray, as Michael said, especially our beautiful sisters, in a positive manner. They only portrayed sisters that were closer to white, maybe, if they were half black and half white, but they had European features. They were elevated up to, the beauty standards. So it's important when we look at white magazines that we make the footnote, or when we hear white media outlets, that we make the footnote in our minds that this is coming from a white perspective. If we don't, we automatically assume that it's just unbiased and just, a general unprejudiced perspective or presentation.
Well, I mean, you're 100% right. And I think it's important, well, like Michael said, back then, and I'd act like this was a long time ago, I mean, you couldn't walk into a black home or home of a black person and not see Jet and Ebony.
Right.
We had it every week, and like Noel said, on page 43, everybody knew the page. You see the the depiction of our beautiful African women. But I think what Noel's saying is very key and very important. There was a black perspective. You know, the stories were written about things that happened in our community from our perspective. And I think that's lost today. I don't think we have that same drive and passion to find information that's being disseminated by our people, for our people, and from our people. I think that we have become so accepting to be inclusive of white media that we look at it as general media, and it's not general. The perspective that are being sought, that's being put out, that's being written about, is not a perspective from a black mindset or a black experience. So we have to definitely give kudos. I know Mike usually says that, to a Ebony and to a Jet magazine, and I think that we really need to develop, and at least this is just my perspective, a new perspective of seeking black information, black perspective, our perspective.
Right, and I don't, for anyone who's looking, and is especially watching the program for the first time, mean to suggest that we constantly identify things, according to race. But, when you look at the news, when you look at magazines, or when you read newspapers, you have to understand that, if you follow this, if you think what they're saying is gospel, and if you think they're giving an unbiased presentation, you're false. And, a lot of opinions that we have, be it political, be it as it relates to foreign affairs, even here, we're conditioned to believe that the information we're getting from these sources is unbiased, subjective, and therefore we take a lot of this information as gospel. And Europeans, when they talk about somebody like Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or even Martin Luther King, they make sure they call him a black leader. They don't just say he's a leader. Right. They'll use coin words, a civil rights leader, which means the same thing. See, white leaders, they never call a white leader a white leader. They just say he's a leader. But black leaders always phrase, if you look at a magazine like Amsterdam News, they'll call it a black newspaper. Or if they talk about Calvin Butt's church, they'll call it a prominent black church. So they always put those codes on it to let they people understand, he's a leader, but he ain't leading us, he's leading them. Right. So we have to do the same thing psychologically to understand that when we read these newspapers, that this is coming from a newspaper that's controlled by whites, the editors are white, the perspective is white, so we shouldn't automatically assume that the information that we're getting is a perspective that necessarily benefits us as a people.
Another thing we have to remember, the goal is to empower whites.
Right.
So and it's unfortunate that we have not been able to distinguish between the two and ensure that when we talk about issues that are affecting us, and we're talking about things that are going to galvanize our community, that we look at it from our perspective and what's going to benefit us collectively.
Right. All right. Topic number one, as it relates to, first of all, Michael, thanks for reminding us about Jet and Ebony magazine, two important magazines. I don't even think they're owned by blacks anymore.
No, I don't think so either.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you turn on page 43 and say blonde hair, blue eyed girl. But anyway, issue number one, in Missouri, as many of you have heard over the last week, there's been leaks by the grand jury. The grand jury is supposed to be a secretive hearing. That's when they wanted to be secretive.
Missouri on what case?
On the Michael
Fergurson
case. On the Fergurson case. There are leaks, implying that the officer might have a justifiable reason to fire his weapon. Now I'm offended that the community is being requested to have confidence in the process, to let the criminal justice system play out. And now these leaks, either is being leaked to by members of the grand jury, by the district attorney's office, or by the police department. Either way, it's illegal. Not unethical, not unfair, it's illegal. This is supposed to be a private hearing. So my question is, why is not the Department of Justice intervening? This jury should be dismissed if they're leaking evidence out because it's prejudicial. It's showing that somebody's not adhering to the instructions by the judge not to discuss this information. So whoever's doing it, and in the white media, they're trying to say, well, maybe they're leaking this information to prepare the community just in case there's no indictment, so they will be less angry, or they'll be ready for it. That's not an acceptable objective.
Right.
It's supposed to be a private, secretive hearing, according to their laws. And if somebody's leaking information, that person should be found. That person in the newspaper should be subpoenaed and forced just like the Department of Justice is doing with this other guy who they're trying to force him to give up his sources who gave information. And the person who's leaking this information be arrested, prosecuted, and incarcerated. Michael, we'll start with you. Are you surprised that this whole criminal justice system that the community has been asked to sit back and let us play its course is running amok?
Well, no, I'm not surprised, and I'll tell you why. The thing you have to always remember and understand, and if you don't know, then you just need to entertain this idea that white men in power have no respect for the law. You know, I'm not talking about somebody you know, somebody you work with, a person you met who you had dinner with. I'm talking about white prominent men in power have no respect for the law. And we can go through 500 years or 400 years here in America to prove that easily. But when you have that kind of power, whether you in Jenna where you have a prosecutor that threatened 6 young black men and tell them I could change your whole life with my pen. Or you have here in Fergurson where this prosecutor should recuse himself from the case because his family is replete with police officers after police officers. His mother worked for the police department. Father was killed allegedly by a black person. Brother's a cop. I mean, just so many people. His whole family are law enforcement, and he has, definitely some views that obviously are counter to black progressiveness. So the fact is, when you look at that, and with leaks, the Manhattan District Attorney leaked things before he dropped the case against DSK when they came back with a true bill.
Now, this is a grand jury.
Right, and that's a secret process, and that's the operative term that you use, Noel. It's a secret process, and when you leak information, it's unlawful. It's against the law, and someone needs to be prosecuted for that. So, as we discussed before, that Darren Wilson is not speaking. He doesn't have to speak. He has an institution doing the speaking for him. He has the police department. He also has the services of the prosecutor's office speaking for him. So he's remaining silent. We said weeks ago that he would come up with the scheme. The scheme they've hatched would be around the police car, which we know is a protected zone. No one is allowed to reach into a police car. Consequently, that's what this whole case will be predicated on. They're going to say that the provocation came when Michael Brown allegedly entered into that police car, whether he reached in, tilted his head and whatever. That's what the basis that they're going to use as a rationale. So we know that already. They've been locking up protesters for the longest. They've been locking up peaceful protesters. Crump, who's supposed to be attorney for the family of Michael Brown, is not doing anything to help those people. The prosecutor is running rampant through the community. They're locking up people ad nauseum for just standing there. And it was the ACLU, not Crump, who got the 5-second rule disbanded. Where if you stand anywhere for 5 seconds, the police reserves the right to lock you up. So they was disallowing demonstrations except at one location. That was being done by the police department. And then the identity was not known. It was the ACLU, white lawyers that came in and demanded that the police department give up the name of that police officer. It wasn't Crump. So Crump is doing nothing but waiting around for the check at the end of all this, as he did with the Trayvon Martin and all these other cases. He's not doing anything. Any law enforcement, any lawyer would have done something about that 5-second rule. Any lawyer would have done something about them keeping the name of that police officer secret. He has not even filled out a police report when they Ferguson's police report and also St. Louis police report had nothing other than name, date, and time, and the people involved in that shooting.
And to Michael's point, the attorney has been silent as it relates to these grand jury leaks. I mean, It is a reflection on the integrity of the process when someone's leaking grand jury information. Now, of course, this is no one from the victim's family because they're not permitted in. It's either a member of the grand jury, it's either the district attorney, or it's either police. Now, why isn't in the white media, and like I said, they're propelling this notion that perhaps, as if it's some justification to it, this information is being leaked to prepare the community for a non-indictment, which is unacceptable. If it's a secretive if it's a secretive investigation, if it's a secretive jury, none of this information should be leaked.
Right.
And the person who's leaking information should be washed, should be flushed out.
You know,
Don't get me started, Hart, please.
brother, I think you should get started because you are started, and I think that's a good thing. What happens is, you know, we talk about this all the time. When you talk about the duplicity in a justice system, you know, there's justice for us, and a justice system for us, and there's a justice system for them. And it's unfortunate that, you know, we don't have to tell them the rules. They know the rules. They know it's a secret hearing. It's a private investigation conducted by the grand jury. None of the information should be leaked. If it is leaked, then either the jury has to be excused, they have to be dismissed, and whoever's leaking it should be prosecuted. The bottom line is that there is an intent when all of these things happen. We understand how the system works. We understand that the system is not designed to benefit African people. So I'm not surprised by it. I'm not surprised by the tactics they use. These are not new tactics. So I'm not saying, oh my goodness, I'm appalled by it. They do this all the time. The problem is, what's our response? That's the problem. How are we going to respond to it? We have elected officials who should have the same concern and interest that we have. We have attorneys who should have the same interests and concerns that we have, that are supposed to be advocates for us and are supposed to be fighting for us, supposed to ensure that there is justice for our community, and that's not happening. Yes. We have to ensure that they are held accountable. We have to ensure that the elected officials that we put in place are doing the job that we demand and that they're sworn to do. They are failing us. We have to stand strong and continue to fight this system that continues to fail us.
Now, the federal government is allegedly monitoring this entire event.
That's the whole claims, right?
Now, what kind of monitoring is this is going on if you can filter, dispense this type of secret information in plain sight, and the feds are not saying anything about this? Now, the feds knew that they made up a law, a 5-second law. The Fed said nothing. You know, all Attorney General Eric Holder came there and shook some hands. He didn't even stay a whole day. Shook some hand, kissed a few babies, and left. And that's the Obama contribution. When you see tanks, tear gas, flash bombs, people being arrested for peaceful demonstrations, and that's the best you could do. Send an Attorney General, and he's getting kudos everywhere he goes. At dinners, he's getting awards. He's being saluted for just kissing some babies and shaking some hands. He did nothing. The Obama administration is standing by, and they're watching what's going on in Fergurson. And as I said, Crump, who's supposed to be Reverend Sharpton's attorney there, the same one from Florida in the Zimmerman case, he's getting these cases all over. The ones that Reverend Sharpton can't pass to Rubenstein, he's passing them to Crump, and look at what Crump is doing. Absolutely nothing.
Right. So the handwritings on the wall for non-indictment, I think we called that weeks ago, and it's going to be very unjust, and I expect the Missouri community to respond in a greater manner by which they did the first time. But, you know, this is our community constantly being edged on to support the system, trust in the process, sit back and let the process go when we see this kind of mockery, you know, take place. And like you said, Michael and Julian, we've seen it before. We've seen it in the Manhattan case with DSK, when the grand jury actually handed down an indictment. But the Manhattan district attorney didn't want the indictment, so he overturned it. And when you talk about
by first dropping that information,
right, by disseminating information, then he refused to go to trial, which is a normal course. And when you talk about white men, you know, no respect for law, you know, Bloomberg, we had two referendums saying term limits.
Right.
He wanted another term, so he knew what the law was. He claims he believed in democracy, but they don't. They believe in democracy as long as the powers. And we talked about this last week. Closing comment, Carl?
Hey, brother, you're right, brother.
Okay. All right, we're going to continue on in Liberia with the Ebola crisis. There's a couple of mining companies and a couple of European companies that are doing very well, especially as it relates to eradicating the disease, where these natural resources are being taken out of the ground for the benefit of Europeans. Fortunately, no individuals in those areas are suffering, but it's something for us to note. And before you talk about Aureus, which is a company in Liberia, I want to comment on some of or afterwards, how the New York News is prompting up as if we're in crisis mode when there's very little activity. More people are dying over the flu in this country over Ebola, but the white media is prompting up, just some crisis mode and making some reflection on the Obama administration, blah, 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 blah. But talk about what's going on in Liberia, one of the affected countries in West Africa who is suffering by multiple infections of this disease.
Well, see, that's why I don't buy certain aspects of this Ebola stuff with Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, the three primary countries. Because these are countries where they are minerally rich and these things are being done to depopulate the people. They have, like I said, it's the Marburg disease developed in Germany, and America has the patent now. They know how to infect mass populations. If you go back, and look at going back to the 70s, Rex 84, and you look at on how they exterminate mass populations. You look at how they destroy and defoliate topsoil. Now you have Aureus mining company that have discovered gold in Liberia. They're moving thousands of people out where they live because people have been living there all this time, right on top of gold, right under the ground. I mean, in Africa, if you drop a seed somewhere, you're going to get a tree the next day. That's how minerally rich the soil is. And if you dig under the soil, you're going to find things. And so they estimate that they can pull out just from this one little area $120 million worth of gold annually. So these and now this company is from Canada, by the way.
Oh, so
now
it's not an African country.
No, it's not. It's not an African company. So the money is going to be going to Canada, and so a white Euro-American / Canadian nation, Euro-Canadian nation. So again, the spoils of Africa are being taken out of Africa, and obviously a leadership or a few people there will get a few crumbs from the table to allow them to move, because they're moving out thousands of people as we speak right now so they can start the digging. But their scientists are there, and they always, as they always are, all throughout Africa, looking for diamonds, gold, oil, and other mineral things.
Well, you're talking about how this, Noel was talking about how this mass hysteria is going on concerning the Ebola virus. I was just talking to one of our brothers earlier, Vernon Wells, very strong brother, very Afrocentric brother, who I'm sure everybody knows. He's done the show before. And he was talking about the two young brothers that go to a Bronx school, two young men. Actually, they were children, let me rephrase that, two children from Senegal that were attacked. And while they were being assaulted, they were screaming Ebola at them. And these were kids. But the hysteria is so rampant that even our children's minds are being affected by the information that's being disseminated concerning Ebola. So, we really have to put things in their perspective. As you talked about, more people die of flu than have been critically affected by Ebola.
And it's not to say that we ignore the potential for catastrophe, but at this point, like I said, if you listen to the press, if you listen to the white media, television and print, they act as if we have hundreds and hundreds. We have a handful of cases, and we ought to be exactly. There is a pandemic going on, and I believe that's intentional as well. Michael, to your point in terms of the natural resources in the companies, Firestone had something on 60 Minutes where they have an 80,000 populated mine, and they've been able to minimize the spread of the Ebola virus on their plantation. So I don't care what's going on in the Middle East. I don't care what's going on in Africa. With the chaos that's happening in the Middle East, so-called Middle East, with the back and forth killing, with the beheadings, we still haven't had a drop in oil. We're still getting that oil oil prices haven't shifted because of the chaos that is happening in Libya and Egypt and Iraq. And,
So you're saying all
and
these
Syria,
businesses in these areas
all these
are
big
not
companies,
affected?
they still get their money.
Oh, okay.
So they're somehow able to disinfect wherever the natural resources are in this country to make certain that these European countries are still bringing home the bacon. I don't know how, with all the chaos that's happening in these countries, how it doesn't obstruct at all the ability of European corporations to extract the natural wealth from these soils.
Well, President Coolidge said it best. He said the business of America is business, and obviously all these European nations are sucking off the breast of Africa, which they've done over the last 5 centuries, and they continue to do. Their wealth, their economies are all based on how much they can exploit Africa. And when these countries did not agree, you ended up with a World War I and a World War II, and even smaller wars, all based on whenever Europeans couldn't agree when they carved up Africa, who wanted the most of this or that. White people will kill other white people over the resources of Africa, and in other cases, they will pay, unfortunately, blacks in certain countries to exploit the wealth.
Last comment on this Ebola crisis. Governor Cuomo and Governor of New York State and Governor Christie of New Jersey have imposed a quarantine for anyone, health workers that return from these affected regions. One nurse was quarantined at the airport, and she filed a lawsuit. They subsequently let her go. Julian, we start with you. Good idea, bad idea, fair, unfair?
Well, I think that if someone has a possibility or for some chance may have been exposed, a 21-day quarantine, I don't think is unreasonable. I mean, we're talking about the effects of masses of people that they may encounter either through their employment, through treatment of medication, or for whatever it may be. I think that it's fair and reasonable to at least keep an watchful eye out and ensure that this person has not contracted or can expose anyone else to the possibility of being infected by Ebola.
I thought it was totally unnecessary. She was asymptomatic. Consequently, there was no need to do it. She was working with people at Ebola on the continent itself, but she showed no symptoms of it. There was no need to do that. But I think that the greater reason they're doing this is because when a black person has it, they're going to hold them, or not where they have it. Any black person that's traveling from Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, they're going to hold them for the full 21 days. So I think that Christie, who's a great proponent of white supremacy, understands full well, use a white woman as an example, as a justification, even though you only held her over the weekend and she was let go within 3 days. But when you get a black person, they're not going to be white lawyers running to her aid as Norman Siegel ran to her aid, and that way they're going to hold black people when they get them, and they will hold them over the course of those 21 days, whether they are showing symptoms or not.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, and I understand what Mike is saying, but in my opinion, if we're talking about somebody who's had direct contact with somebody who has Ebola, and there's a probability or a possibility that they may have it, I personally don't think that it's unreasonable to ensure the safety of other people who may come in contact, whether it's in your residence or healthcare. Reasonable. We have to look at the total circumstances on what and why we're going to hold these people to ensure that no one else is infected. But I think it has to be reasonable.
Right. All right. Well, the medical community has this, as you guys have done, talked about both sides of the issue, whether or not it's necessary or unnecessary, and I guess time will tell as we proceed on with, as we monitor this particular disease. Also, we want to look real quick, Julian. You and I discussed a comment that was made by Charles Barkley in regards to so-called unintelligent blacks. There was allegedly a comment made by one of the Seattle Seahawks members, right, commented about that black quarterback. I think he's half black and half something else.
Right.
That he's not black enough. Now, all of this is just allegations. No one came forward with any statement, or any person who came forward and said that they made the statement. The quarterback didn't even say somebody told him that statement. But of course, Charles Barkley never never passes an opportunity to bash African Americans. Now that he's, he's beloved by white America, he has a 9 to 5. He's getting paid real good. What did you feel about his comment? Why don't you talk, if you have his comment, why don't you say the comment that Charles Barkley actually made?
Well, basically he said for some reason blacks are brainwashed in thinking that if you're not a thug or if you're not selling drugs or doing bad things, that you're not black enough. And
no, look, say that again, brother. This is Charles Barkley, right? This is
Charles Barkley.
We're not talking about his 5-year-old son and his 7-year-old son.
No, Charles Barkley said, actually he said, if you're not a thug or an idiot, then you're not black enough.
And he said, this is how black people feel.
Right.
And he didn't even qualify.
Right, no. Right. He didn't qualify it. He said that's how black people feel. If you're not a thug or you're an idiot, you're not black enough. Now, it is unfortunate that they allow, well, I'm not even going to say it's unfortunate, but, they allow Charles Barkley to be the spokesman for African people in this country, which I think is ridiculous. But as you said, he doesn't let go any opportunity to bash black people. But I think that we have to be clear that, I think we all know that is not the position of black folks. I don't think that's the position of any black folks, but that's my opinion. But we really have to think about when white media utilizes someone to speak for black folks, they decide who they're going to use. So they'll pick a Charles Barkley who is not the spokesperson for black people and who does not even have the pulse on the thought and the passion and the feelings of African people in this country. So I totally dismiss it, but I think that everyone is not going to have the ability or the willingness to totally dismiss a Charles Barkley.
Well, certainly it's not accidental that you would have Charles Barkley speaking on things like that. Certainly, for one thing, he's cerebrally challenged and very limited in his scope. He has a history, him, and whether it's Doc Rivers and Scottie Pippen, so many other former athletes, they have a craving lust for white women. And since they love white women, they don't want to be accused of not being black because they happen to like white women. And so they're going to take that position, and certainly the person they're talking about, the quarterback, he was married to a white woman. I think they're not together now from what somebody told me. But so that's there. He's a well-spoken guy. So-called well-adjusted. He has a relationship.
You talking about Charles Barkley right now?
No, I'm talking about the quarterback, Seattle quarterback. So he has a history of being close to management, but every quarterback in the NFL has a history of being close to management and the coach. That's just part of the process. But in any event, whites do not use buffoons to speak for them. They don't engage in buffoonery. Only blacks have entertainers, and that's what Barkley now is. He's a former athlete, more of an entertainer now, engages in buffoonery, sort of the step and fetch it kind of stuff on TNT he does every week, and that's why he gets awards every year. And at the same time, white people, they have generals that speak for them. They have senators, they have governors, they have business leaders who speak for them on their behalf. They have ambassadors that master geopolitics. They speak for them. They don't have entertainers speaking for them.
And we got to remember, these are white people that have people like Barkley speaking for us. We don't go to Barkley and ask him what's his position on issues that might affect our community. This is the white media that's going to people like Charles Barkley and asking him these questions. And he's making statements such as, we attack our intelligent black members of our community, as if he's one of those. Right.
And like you said, Julian and Michael, I very rarely see white athletes or former athletes given a microphone to make a comment about a political statement or a politician, but they come to our comedians, our politicians, as if they're experts in those fields to make these kind of conversations. But all right, we're at the point we have to go to the telephones. First phone caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York.
Hotep Brooklyn.
All right, Brother Bruce. I wanted to ask the question, do you know any politician or state or assembly elected or selected official that written out an agenda for the black people in New York State? And why are people going to the voting polls November 4th for what? Thank you.
Well, brothers, excellent question. I was looking over the internet. They made a statement about Cornel West and his genius, and he is a very intelligent individual. He's very analytical as it relates to critiquing some of the problems that African Americans have. But you will not find one so-called black elected official, other than maybe Alt Maddox, who has the goal of organizing the masses of our people. They like to talk. They like to engage in talkathons. But one thing they will not do is organize the masses of black people. Kwame Ture said we're not poor, just poorly organized. Martin Luther King organized black people. That's why he fell out of favor with whites. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey. These individuals not only talk, but they organize. So to answer your question, brother, there's not one selected official that is talking about organizing African people. They're just not talking about it. No black selected leader. No clergy is talking about organizing the masses of black people, because they know that if they organized us, that they would fall out of favor with the white sponsors that they have.
There's no question about it. I think that's a great question, and certainly Adam Clayton Powell did it close to 50 years ago. 17-point black power position paper. He did that in the halls of Congress, like I said, over 50 years ago. The Congressional Black Caucus, they do not have a black agenda. They are not there with black aims and aspirations for our people. They're there just like a bump on a log, literally doing nothing. The black agenda should come out of the Congressional Black Caucus, because they are in a position to hand this to the Democratic Party. If you want to see what the Democratic Party stands for, you have to look at its placards, its points, on its planks. And the Republican Party, look at its planks. And if you see that none of those planks reflecting black interests, then it shows you the Democrats or the Republicans do not stand for black people.
All right, next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Kareem from Harlem, brother.
Hold that, brother.
Brother Julian and Brother Noel, I know y'all will get mad at me for going at y'all Governor Christie and that snake Como, so brother let it be when they got to be, because they got to get it fixed. Listen, these classes know everything about the George Washington Bridge. They couldn't answer none of those questions. Como always going to these different rooms and making bills with white people and coming out and giving the Negro politicians coming out the caucus, and they come back and say, oh, he's a good white man. Both of them. Elijah Muhammad said, why do the Negro love the white man so much? Because the white man gives them nothing, brother, and y'all right on point. None of these Negroes are saying nothing about what Como or Christians doing, but they're going to be all of a sudden speak on E4, and they don't know nothing about it. They're just looking for opportunity. Brother Mike, I would like for you to speak to that, and y'all brothers keep doing a great job, and peace.
All right, thanks for calling, brother.
Well, certainly, you're absolutely right. And we should not be surprised at this late juncture in our history that Governor Christie stands for white supremacy. Governor Cuomo stands for white supremacy. They both have had all white slates. They both seek to empower white people. They both dismember and disrupt the black community. So it's no surprise. It's on the level they're dealing on, there's no such thing as Republican and Democrat. It's white supremacy.
All right, next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
What's up, my brother? Charlie calling from Harlem.
Hold that, brother.
All right, now, I just wanted to look at the comment that the typical thing was certainly we were seeing was going wrong. The dead news that gave me a shot on last Sunday, and I guess Sandy knows that this thing is not over, we coming at it. Because of the shame, nobody's speaking about this thing, and it's just going on decades, man, ain't nobody who's speaking no more. But if it would have been out of the modern, it would have been away from it, they would put it in the jail.
Okay.
So just let us, you know, we still coming at it. I still got little petitions, and we're going to the VA this week.
Okay.
We're going to make some noise. Thank you.
All right, excellent. This is the brother who's been getting petitions calling for the arrest of Ruben C. based on the allegation that he raped a member of the National Action Network. But keep up the good work, brother. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Harlem. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hotep, brother.
Hotep. You know, you guys were talking about Ebony and Jet magazine earlier, and one picture that's etched in my mind is the centerfold of Frida Payne.
Right.
Right.
Oh, brother, hold on a second, brother. Why you go there, brother? I remember that too, brother.
A guy from the Fifth Dimension, Lamont McLemore, used to take a lot of those pictures of those beautiful sisters. So he was probably one of the luckiest brothers in the world
Yes,
to
sir.
have that job.
Yes, sir.
As far as Ferguson's concerned, I hope these people are ready for 4 days of charlatans, because Reverend Sharpton plans on spending 4 days in Ferguson this weekend, 1 day for every hour that Michael Brown laid on the ground. This guy is certainly all about him. He showed that at the funeral. There are people out there that don't trust Sharp Tongue or Jackson. And, there's a result that's going to come out from this Michael Brown thing that these people are not going to like, and they're going to set that town on fire. And as far as, Reverend Sharpton not standing up for that sister, I think that's wrong. And it's just like Michael Gray says, Martin Luther King would not stand by a river. Good evening, gentlemen.
All right, thank you for your call. Excellent points.
Well, Brother
Real quick,
Yah
brother.
exposed Reverend Jackson, and Reverend Sharpton proved he's smarter than Jesse Jackson, because he sent Jesse out the front, and when Jesse went out the front, he snuck out the back of the church at the funeral, and that's why they wasn't able to confront him. He snuck out the back. So the thing is, he's redoing, because white people have told him to take over Ferguson, because they coming down with the decision that we're not going to be fond of. So they've already did 4 consecutive days, day and night, of protests during the Columbus Day weekend. Reverend Sharpton now is trying to take control of Ferguson, because white folks are giving him a bridge to do it. So he claims he's going to do 4 days, but he's only going to spend 1 day there, because if he spent 4 days there, they're going to get him, they're going to confront him, and they'll expose him as what he really is. So he's going to come there for 1 day, and then supposedly pass the baton to other members of National Action Network to continue, but it's already been done. They've done 4 straight days of protesting there.
All right, next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello, family. Brother Ray from Brooklyn.
Hotep, Brooklyn.
I tell you, Community Cop family, if you would came and listened to the brother from Ferguson last week
Yes, sir.
at UAM's Wednesday forum, you would have got the real deal on what's going on.
That's right.
Let me ask a question. In the thing of this Ebola shit, a.k.a. Ebola, what about the role of China, Russia, and all these other people that's scrambling for the riches of Africa? Number one, you don't hear nothing about them. Number two, the gentleman's name is Sanford Rapenstein. Sanford Rapenstein. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your call, brother. Next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
This is Brown from Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Okay, another Brooklyn. Quick question or comment, brother?
I'd just like to make 2 comments. What about the Ebola thing, all right? Even though I disagree with the policies they have, but it's better to be safe than sorry. This is the most populated area in the country. We're going to affect the world if anything breaks out here. The second comment is on Ferguson. Now, that jury is going on in Ferguson is only trying to ease the public with it and taking time to let them relax and hope it goes away. It's not going to go away. Of course, they really know the outcome of that. Wake up your, open up your eyes. You know it's going to be negative against us, but they don't want to affect the population. Blacks now are more influential in more operations of how this country works than any time in history. They don't want us to get it.
Right. All right. Excellent point, brother. Thank you for your call. And as we stated earlier, regardless of what the objective of the leaking this information, it's illegal. It shouldn't happen. I think the grand jury, if they're the cause of the leak, should be dismissed. If it's coming from the district attorney's office or the police department, they ought to be arrested. All right, but next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Harlem.
Hotep, brother.
Hotep. I just wanted to put it out there that black folks, as you were speaking earlier, basically you have to control the narrative. You have to take control of the narrative. You can't just let people spoon feed you information. I would like to believe I took an initiative by getting in contact with brothers and sisters from St. Louis and Missouri and whatnot who are involved in the Ferguson thing, and I let them be hip to what's going on with Sharpton in New York and whatnot, because a lot of people, black folks, don't know about Sharpton and his under the table dealings with the check cutters, basically.
Right.
And oddly enough, that's when I even posted a picture where Jesse Jackson was shaking hands with the police and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And lo and behold, after having posted that picture, I see a lot of black folks made him accountable because basically they're using these incidents as fundraisers for their own selves and whatnot. And a lot of black folks are starting to see this and they're making them accountable and whatnot. And we got to start doing that here because we already know.
Right. All right. Excellent point, brother.
They both were traveling with police escorts. Let's make that clear. Jesse Jackson and Reverend Sharpton, they're both traveling with police escorts, and they know full well that they're not at ground zero where all the demonstrations are taking place. They do quick press conferences, and then they skedaddle.
Right. All right. Next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
I'm calling from, I'm calling from Washington Heights.
Okay, sister.
Well, I believe that Black Caucus organization is just a elitist organization that are looking out for their own agenda. I've been a member of the Democratic Party for over 40 years, and I never hear from them. Only their members when they're getting ready to run for re-election. So therefore, why, as a black people, should we pay any attention to them? They don't do anything to promote anything or anybody but themselves.
That's right.
I hope and pray that all your people that are calling up with Hote and Assalamu Alaikum, I hope and pray they're registered voters. Because if they're not, their voice will not ever be heard.
Right. All right. Thank you for your call, sister.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? That's you, caller. All right, I hear the feedback. Can we go to the next call? Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
The Upper West Side.
Hotep.
I would like to get your mailing address. I'd like to mail you some information.
Okay, we'll give it at the end of the program.
Okay.
So stay tuned. Get your
Thank
pen and
you.
paper. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hotep, this is Sister Pat from Brooklyn.
Hotep, sister.
Okay, I just want to make a comment on one of your first callers and your caller that just was on. They made a statement about the black agenda. Let me just say this very quickly. You have Democrats who are registered promoting other parties' agendas. Like Cuomo, he's a Democrat, but he's promoting the White Women Equality Party. And Assembly Kareem, he's also a registered Democrat, and he's promoting the Working Family Party with the DREAM Act. There is no black agenda. The only people who have fashioned a black agenda is the Freedom Party.
That's right.
They're the only one.
That's right. Now, could you name the black elected officials that are supporting the Freedom Party?
None. None, unfortunately, none. But they want, the voters to come out this Tuesday and re-elect them.
Right.
Wait a minute, sister. Think real hard. You can't think of one black selected official that are talking about galvanizing the black vote to empower the African American community. You can't give me one selected official?
Not only could I not give you one selected official, but I'll also let you know that over about 300 churches was also notified of this. 300 churches. So, one of my favorite heroes, Dr. Julius here, he has this quote, that on Sunday, 1 million black women in church looking for Jesus and 1 million black men in jail looking for justice. This is where we're at.
So, you want to make... I'm sorry.
I think it's so important what the sister's talking about.
And thank you for your call, sis.
And one of the things we have to remember, when you talk about a Cuomo and these elected officials, they really supporting the white agenda.
Right.
Even if it's white women, they're not talking about black women agenda. They're talking about white women agenda. So they're really talking about a white agenda. So we really have to think about it. When you talk about these parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, listen, I think that's all just a ploy to keep everybody, at least keep African people confused. These people are working on a white agenda to benefit white power and white supremacy.
And when you engage yourself to a political party who has done nothing, you look at 2014, in entertainment, no power. Politics, no power. Education, no power. Labor, no power. Law, no power. When you look at, I don't care, any facet of human existence, any facet of life where African people are being disenfranchised, You know, and you have no politicians, or not only people who write laws, but should be in the business of enforcing laws, you know, standing up and galvanizing the masses of our people. It's unbelievable.
Well, the National Organization of White Women, who are right here in New York, they wanted to meet with the NFL, National Football League's commissioner around what happened to Ray Rice. Why didn't they come out when they heard that the allegation from a black woman that Sanford Rubenstein sexually abused her? Why didn't they come out to that? Why didn't they want to speak to her? Why didn't they get their attorneys and back her? They want to deal with a punch being thrown in the elevator by a black man, but when they heard of a white man allegedly raping a black woman, they get real silent. National Organization of White Women.
All right. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
From Brooklyn.
Hotep, brother.
My name's Hugh. I watch the show every day, and you're absolutely right. And the problem for black people is that we just don't care about ourselves, because if we did, we wouldn't be giving away our votes every 4 years, every 2 years. Just give it away. And then we wonder why we're at the bottom of the totem pole, because we don't have any power in this country anymore. We never did, really. And even under Obama, he's proven to every black person, he doesn't really care about us. All Obama really cares about is his party. And the problem with black people is that they did it again also with de Blasio. They went out and voted for de Blasio, and then they were upset that he cut school choice. Now, how can you keep voting against your own interests and expect something different to come of it? It's not gonna happen. And black people, the problem with them too is that they're too quick to believe everything they hear without actually doing homework and understanding. Listen, just because someone tells you something doesn't mean it's true. You have to find out for yourself, because everyone has an agenda. People in position of power has an agenda. And that's what I learned a long time ago. And all these black politicians in New York that pretend that they're looking out for black people, they're just full of shit. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it's true.
But okay. Okay, brother, thank you for your call. Thank you for your point. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yeah, from Manhattan.
Okay, quick question or comment?
It's a question and a comment.
Real quick, brother, we wind it down.
What do you think about Ebola? And what do you think about the churches doing their share and sending money and building health clinics in Africa to help those people?
Right. All right, did y'all hear the question?
No, I didn't
All right, brother, I'm sorry, we couldn't understand the question. Are you still on?
Yes.
All right, say it once again, real clear.
What do you think about church people helping the people in Africa with Ebola, raising money to build medical clinics?
But okay, I think that's an excellent idea.
Well, I think they have clinics already. I think that if church people start putting their money, they can spend the money more wisely here and build the institutions and infrastructures that can better secure the safety of our children. So I think that that the money will be better spent right here as opposed to building medical facilities, which they have already, build some schools and build some programs that can better protect the youth of tomorrow.
All right.
I disapprove of that too, because people in Africa can't get those kind of buildings or whatever. We can do it here, and that's what I don't understand. But us African people, so-called African people in America, you claim to be African, but you're not. When it comes down to help African people in Africa, you turn your back on those people. I don't understand you, and you talk on both sides of your mouth about being black, but just help the people in Africa, and those are our relatives too.
Right,
There's
okay.
thousands and thousands of people.
Right.
We can do what we can do here. Let's help the people there.
Okay, brother. All right, we got your point. Let's see if we got this last call. Last caller, welcome to Community Cop. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Real quick, where you calling from?
Calling from Rockaway.
Okay, Queens, quick question. You got 30 seconds.
Okay. Wow, the Ebola situation. Barry Mack, 13 years ago, in his first season, second episode, his daughter was coughing, and he went to run to the bedroom where the baby was at with his wife behind her. He said, "Oh my God, she's got Ebola." And then he turns to the camera and he said these words, "I know what y'all doing." He wasn't talking to us, he was talking to our enemy. You know, and with the politicians, when we had him hurricane down here, that black politician, I don't know his name, didn't even show his face around. The only black face we saw after 4 days of terror, of what we went through, was Tyson Chandler from the New York Knicks. He might have with dozens, maybe hundreds of thousands of footgear for family free, man.
Okay,
With
brother.
no politician out here.
I'm sorry,
Thank
brother.
you, New York Giants.
Right, okay, brother, I'm sorry we had to tell that. Thanks.
Knicks.
Thanks for calling, brother. Julian, final comments?
You know, the bottom line is, you know, it's very important that we organize. You know, we talk about churches, we talk about politicians, we talk about a multitude of things that have an impact and that are affecting our communities. Every issue that we have a concern with, that's an issue that we should be organizing around, but from a black perspective, from a perspective that's going to benefit our community. Dad, I love you. I'll be with you shortly. And Karen, I love you as well. Get well, both of you guys. And go ahead, Mike.
Just big ups to Brother Yah, who came from Fergurson last week, gave us a lot of information on the situation. Karen, Mr. Harper, stay in God's unchanging hand, reinstate automatics.
Mr. Harper and Kitty Cat, we love you. We pray for you always. And Little Mo, I love you. We like to thank Nolan Toppin, Sheila Berry, Nat Woods, Veronica Kitt, our engineers and producers for putting this program together. We'd like to thank you, our viewing audience, who we periodically meet on the street, our callers. See you next Tuesday. Knowledge is power. You know, stay abreast of what's going on because knowledge is power. Thanks for watching. See you next Tuesday. Knowledge to the wise. Peace.